Hey guys, I mentioned earlier I was thinking about doing a short video series on the importance of taking mediumship seriously. So recently I've had a couple of experiences here in New York where I've recognized that people have had a natural inclination to channel and bring forth spirits, and we're having inconsensual spirit communication to which they thought they were able to harness, but might have caused them more harm than good because they were not aware of the legitimacy of the experience, or also the authenticity or the seriousness of the way that we should take um, this subject. So I wanted to take a moment and just give you some pointers, just preliminary pointers. Like I said, I'm not a teacher. I haven't been classically trained. I've just worked and lived in a town of mediums for several years, and I have talked to many mediums, and from my own personal experiences with mediumship and my own delving into this world, I've learned quite a bit. So I know a lot of us don't have a lot of money, and we don't have a lot of time or no mentors or people to reach out with, but yet we have these very strong experiences where we might hear voices or we might see spirits and we might feel uncomfortable about it or might feel out of control. So what I want to tell you is, first of all, we need to focus on making sure that our channel is clear. We need to focus first and foremost on taking care of ourselves, our emotional bodies, and our physical bodies to be able to recognize what's coming through us. If we are becoming inebriated, if we are opening up our energy to just whatever comes through, we are becoming an open vessel for things to flow through us that may or may not have our consent to do so. So I want to give us, first and foremost, let's talk about cleansing. Let's talk about clearing our own energetic bodies. Some great pointers here. You know, we take baths, we take showers pretty often. You can take a little bit of sea salt into the shower with you, whether it's your Epsom salt or just a traditional like Himalayan salt or just, kosher sea salt. Bringing a small bowl into the shower with us and scrubbing our pores and scrubbing the scalp to the down to our shoulders, our neck. Make sure you get the back of your neck. And notice that there's a big entrance point here, right at the base of the nape of our neck, where a lot of information will come through our crown, the back of our hearts, and definitely the soles of our feet and our hands. We have a little friend here. It says Freya, and she's joining us here for this discourse. So, making sure that we cleanse ourselves, especially if we're dealing with some uncertainty. We dealt with something, we may have seen something that we were not prepared to see, or heard things that we're not sure of the validity of their scriptures or their messages. So, making sure that we clear ourselves of that is important. We can use sage, we can use Palo Santo, we can use bay leaves, we can use rosemary. There are numerous amounts of different cleansing herbs, different cleansing rituals that we can work with. If you're a stone person, selenite and black tourmaline will be very helpful for you to stay grounded and to also clear out anything that is less than your highest and best. Now, when I say highest and best, I want you to understand that a lot of times we ask for things and we get excited about our own magical abilities in manifesting things in the world, but oftentimes we'll be like, I want this specific thing. And we recognize that we might have that desire for that specific thing, but it might not be the best thing for us. We want to accept ourselves as creator gods and alignment with our highest selves, but we also have to recognize with our own humbleness and dropping the ego that maybe we don't always know what is best for us. So by using the clause of what is highest and best, we are able to open up a new energy where we are able to lose what is not our highest and best and allow that to move in. So then when these things become torn from us, we recognize that they're being taken away for a reason. They're being taken away so that something better can move through. So instead of fighting and resisting and feeling the angst of losing something that we thought we really wanted, we recognize this is really just happening so something better can come through. Now, back to the subject of mediumship. We're familiar with Ouija boards. We're familiar with campy stories of people talking to the dead. We're familiar with our friend that says they see spirits and they communicate with spirits. So we might be inclined to try it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that desire to communicate with the other side. We might have loved ones that were very close to us that have passed over. We might be very concerned about their emotional well-being. We might be concerned about whether or not there's an afterlife, or what happens after the soul leaves the body if consciousness continues. In my own personal belief, I believe that once the soul leaves the body, consciousness still exists. I believe that while we're in our human form, we're burning through our karma. So while we're in this form, while we're in this shell, this meat suit, as some people I love refer to it as, we are burning off karma. We are, we're going through some rough lessons because we are becoming stronger and we're learning how to grow from our experiences. So in these experiences, we might find the desire to learn more about what happens to us once we leave this physical form. And no one can put that into concrete description. I have a good friend that says that if you believe it, it's true. And there's a lot of depth to that. And I personally have followed that concept to understand that that's kind of how multifaceted different religions interact with each other and also separate themselves from each other. They believe that their path is true to them because that's their perception and that's what they believe in their hearts. So that's what's true to them and that's what they interact with. So understanding that, we can't necessarily belittle another person for their beliefs because it works for them. But yet we know that our own personal path and our interaction with the universe and our interaction with God or our interaction with deities is our own personal path. It's our own personal language and communication with the divine with our own practices. So without wanting to dishonor that, I want to say honor your own path, honor your own intuition, honor your own religion if that's a path you choose to follow. But I would like to say that mediumship is legitimate. It is something to be taken very seriously and to be looked at with a lot of respect and also a lot of humility. So let's talk about Great Uncle Bob here. Great Uncle Bob, you might have died young. You might walk into a reading, and there's several things that happen when you walk into a reading. There's the people that are great doubters that want to be proven wrong. They don't believe in it. They don't think it's serious. They want to come in there and they want to like almost spin a fake tale to prove that the psychic or medium is just like working a parlor trick. That's awful. First and foremost, because it's disrespectful to the person that's giving you their time and their energy. It's disrespectful to yourself and your own money. It's disrespectful to energies that they're trying to connect with. So if you really and truly fully believe that it's not legitimate, then don't interact with it. Please don't. If you don't have some sort of respect for the art, then just, it's not your path. You don't have to walk down that. If you're drawn to it and you have respect for it, please walk down that path lightly and make sure that you're ready to be open to receiving this information. So in my own personal experience, I've seen several people lose themselves with mediumship and with interacting with spirits. And it's easy to do, It's like you could be a lonely person, you could be a hermit, and you might not interact or relate to a lot of people in your life, and you all of a sudden you start seeing stuff and you start maybe hearing voices, and they might be starting to give you legitimate advice. And at this point in time, I would advise you to try to work with a guide that resonates with you. So to begin with, I recommend that you search and you start researching Ascended Masters and learning how to channel and working with guides that resonate with you. When I say guides, that sounds very ambiguous and New Age, but I really mean finding energies that are benevolent and that are kind and compassionate and don't necessarily want an offering from you. There are certain deities, especially in the pagan reality, that will ask for things from you. They expect an offering for return for your services, or you're asking them questions. But your guides, they're just there. It's just like they follow you. You'll have a passing of the guards from time to time, and a new guide will enter. But really working with them, asking for protection. Working with protection is very important. The more open you become, and people beginning on their spiritual paths will oftentimes first be a little bit tormented by really weird and uncomfortable experiences that make them realize that there are more things than the mundane around them. And it's uncomfortable. I'll admit it. For me, I dealt with some paranormal experiences that I was a very big atheist. I was raised Protestant, and I was brought into the church at a young age, and I followed that path for a long time. It didn't resonate with me because it didn't answer the questions that I asked, and I felt very ostracized from this religious path. So I don't want to belittle anyone's path, but I'll just say that I found that it was not for me. Because I was born with a very strong intuition, and I had a psychic inclination from the age of 3 on. So I have worked on this path diligently for at least the last 10 years. This is my 10-year anniversary of my own awareness of my consciousness and my willingness to work on myself and to try to evolve myself spiritually. In that path, I've discovered a lot of darkness and also a lot of light, and the fact that the two are entwined infinitely. It's like the day and the night. There's a balance between the two. There's the point where the two intersect, and you can't have one without the other. We all try, once we awaken, to stick to the light. We try to find ourselves in this bright path of everything is wonderful, and my perception is this is useful to me, and this is cosmically good, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And gratitude is truly a tool of evolution. I won't take that away from you, but what I've learned in the last few years here in New York is that aside from gratitude, that recognition of your shadow aspects and how they serve you and how you can make those a part of your light aspects is very integral to the wholeness of your being. When we try to pretend that we are evolved and spiritual in just the light, and everything is great and awesome all the time, we feel imbalanced. And there's a part of us that ends up rebelling. So finding a way to integrate that balance between the goodness and the light, and not necessarily feeling guilty for the aspects of your shadow self, and instead finding out how that can aid your light self. For me, I've learned that my gothic or bitchy side has helped me to create stronger boundaries and to also be a little bit more discerning upon people who give a lot of false promises and are ready to offer you a lot of things that maybe you're not ready to accept. So, back to mediumship. So, if this is happening to you and spirits are speaking to you, first and foremost, you want to ask them questions. I dealt with a very traumatic experience on Saturday with someone who was not skilled with mediumship. They had just begun their path. Skilled channel for sure, natural channel, but they didn't understand the safety regulations of dealing with the voices that speak through you. Just like I tell my daughter, you want to ask questions. You want validation of these experiences. You want to make sure that the information that you're given is resonating with you. So ask questions you know the answer to. I remember my first mediumship experience when I was living in Casadega. I had seen earlier than that, I had seen my grandfather come to me in physical form, like another person walk up, call my name walking down the street. I was honestly scared out of my mind. Walked right past him because I was not ready to deal with that. was not ready to deal with seeing someone that had been dead for 10 years. And so I shut it out. I was disturbed. I thought about it, and I was just like, what? I was very much an atheist at the time. But moving forward, after my great grandmother passed away, I was very close to her. She was my maternal great grandmother. She baked me poached eggs in the morning and left me lemonade and baked me the most glorious gingerbread cookies and was just the matriarch of my family. So I decided one day to really explore this, but I was smart enough to know that this isn't something you just be like, Grandma, please come here. So I took the time. I lit some white candles. I burned some sage. I created a protective circle for myself. For me, because I work with crystals, I surrounded myself in a circle of white light stones. Was the apophyllite, quartz, selenite, pedalite, danburite. You get the gist. I sat in a circle of white light. And I called upon my great grandmother and I called upon my paternal grandfather, who I was close to since the moment I was born, even though he died while I was very young. And it was interesting because my great grandmother and my grandfather came through and they had a difference of opinions about the questions that I asked. It was almost like they were arguing amongst themselves. And in that moment, I realized that here in this incarnation of Earth is where we do our evolution. So though it's painful and though we struggle day to day to deal with these personal interactions, this is really where we're learning. This is our school. So once we evolve from this physical form, until we incarnate again, do we evolve beyond that. So I recognize that my great-grandmother is still my great-grandmother who she was in that body. Just because she passed over doesn't mean that she's gained some sort of greater knowledge. She gained the knowledge while she was here in physical form. She can give me advice about what she learned in this physical form, but beyond that, it's of her era, it's of her nature, it's of her personality. So when you're dealing with a medium and going to somebody for a mediumship reading, you must recognize that those spirits may or may not be as evolved as you are. So you really need to ask a lot of questions and validate and really weigh out if it's important enough for you to reach out to these spirits to get those answers you're looking for, and to not to necessarily view them as a guide for you. Because once they've left this plane, they're waiting, whether they reincarnate or whether they evolve to another space. The aspect of the communication that you have with them is the communication that they would have given you on this plane. So remember to view it from that perspective. Now, let's talk about substances. We all might like to have a drink. We might like to indulge in different tools of awareness experience, whether they're, psychedelics or whether they are different herbs or whatever your vices are, or whatever you feel like expands your own psychic gifts. We have to be aware that opening ourselves up, whether it's a tattoo, whether it is some sort of application of substance, that we become open. And if we're not careful and guarded and protected, that we might be inviting things through us. It's like that Frozen song from the Disney movie where my heart is an open door, but it's literally like your body is an open door. You are a channel. And you want to make sure that your channel is clear. And you want to make sure that what you bring through you is valid, is something that is helpful, and is something that is going to help you walk further on your path rather than confuse you. Something I picked up on my own, nothing someone taught me, was that true guides and helpful spirits will speak slowly to you. They won't force you to do anything. You might hear a ringing in your ears and stop for a minute and listen. And you might hear a message. And you could say, can you please repeat that message? And their message will be repeated slowly and patiently and lovingly. Malevolent spirits will work a little differently. They'll be forceful. They will invade your thoughts. They will ask you to do things and tell you that this is the thing you need to do right now. And it's exciting because you hear them. And you might be lonely and you might be excited to be in contact with something that's interacting with you. And in that process, we have to recognize that people that are forceful with us in the physical world and tell us what to do, we would be like, yo, dude, please tone it down. I have my own life to live. Please do not push me around. And we want to do that with the spirits too. We want to create firm boundaries. We want to say, this is the time where I will communicate with you. This is who I will communicate with. And this is something that is unacceptable. Just as if you were in a relationship or any sort of interaction where someone was pushing you beyond your boundaries, you would want to say, I do not consent to this. I do not consent. I will not speak with you. Go away. You must tell them to leave. If you do not feel comfortable, you do not know who they are not able to validate simple questions, and they are rude to you in response, you need to push them out immediately. So stones that are good for that are black tourmaline, like I mentioned before, labradorite, onyx, shungite, Lemurian seed crystals, and rainbow obsidian, my very favorites, to push out energies that could be malevolent, as well as lapis and malachite, very powerful protective stones. So working with these energies, these are stone allies that could be with you. Rosemary, bay leaf, sea salt, sage also will assist you in this. I want to stop here now because I've already rambled on for 23 minutes, but as a preliminary discourse on protection, and just want to validate your experiences with your own interest in this, you're not crazy. You might have been born with this gift, or you might have an interest in this, or you might have been thrown into it without your consent. But this is real. This exists. This is something to take seriously. This is something to not abuse. Just because you start hearing voices doesn't mean that you should share them with others. Journal. I want you to investigate how they make you feel. This could be a very dangerous thing if it's not healthy for you. So before you decide that you are a medium and you can reach these spirits and you can help other people, really spend a little bit of time assessing if it's really helping you. How do you feel? Do you feel drained? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel enlightened? Do you feel forced to do things you wouldn't do otherwise? So journaling is a great place to begin. So I'll leave you with that tonight. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll happily get back to you at my convenience. I have a very busy mom life, but I want to be in service to those who are in need, those who are afraid, those who feel like a weirdo and alone. You're not. You're really not. This is a big realm of existence, and it's something to take seriously and something to walk and tread with humility and lightness. So honor your ancestors. I recommend you ask for guidance from the Ascended Masters, your guides, your highest self, and your animal spirit guides, whether or not you know them by name. Calling them in before you interact with any other energies is going to bring forward a protection that is immense and absolutely necessary. And it's going to help block out those energies that are not serving you. So you want to do what is the highest and best for yourself. regardless of whether or not you're allowed to make that interpretation. Asking for it, asking for that consent, asking for that assistance, and discovering that is integral. I leave you all in blessings and light, and I love you all on your path, and I encourage you to move forward on your journey with inspiration and love. Good night.